Hey travelers, Mag here, coming at you from the city of Kumamoto, continuing to work my way south across Kyushu. For this morning's plan, I don't necessarily have anything particular in mind. However, the biggest concentration of geocaches here in Kumamoto Prefecture are right here in the downtown area of Kumamoto City. So that's where I've decided to go. I've got a few miles ahead of me to walk out to find all these geocaches, and what I do know is I'm going to be finishing this thing off in front of Kumamoto Castle. I've got about 4 to 5 hours to kill and a lot of geocaches ahead of me, so let's get out there together and see the city of Kumamoto. Come on, let's go.
For this part of the journey around the island of Kyushu, we will be exploring the city of Kumamoto with a population of over 730,000 people. This is a very big city in an area that is otherwise quite wild. Most of the land east of the city is designated as Aso Kuju National Park, home to Mount Aso, the largest active volcano in Japan and one of the largest to be found anywhere in the world, rising up to 1,592 meters at its tallest peak. It resides within a caldera that stretches for 25 kilometers north to south.
One thing I love about being out in the early morning hours is despite the fact that I'm a train stop, I'm the only one here. So there's nobody to worry about as I just slide over here and make a find.
Mount Aso has had a dramatic effect on the region, giving birth to many hot springs and making it one of the top destinations anywhere in the country to sit, soak, and relax. The unique geological strata here also operates as a natural filter, cleaning the streams and rivers before they emerge from the ground. It is some of the most pure, crisp, and refreshing water that you can drink anywhere around Japan, and most of the groundwater is used directly as tap water without any additional cleaning.
I have this travel bug in my possession that came out of Alabama, and Wildcat Co. handed it to me in Wakayama because it wants to go see geocaches in Japan. Now, the entire time I was on the road in the United States, I actually didn't move any travel bugs because it was just one bridge too far for me. But these little guys, basically, they love to go from geocache to geocache, put it inside, and another traveler picks it up and continues its journey. Since I decided to take possession of Snoopy here, I took a picture of him with Aichan, took him on a little tour of Nakatown. He went to the Bomb Dome in Hiroshima, and he went to the Ground Zero in Nagasaki. He got pictures of all those things. Now I'm ready to go ahead and drop him somewhere here in Kyushu. The problem is that I just can't seem to find a geocache container big enough to house Snoopy. So, despite my best efforts, it might be a while until I find a geocache that can house the little guy.
Honestly though, I don't think Snoopy really minds. It is difficult for a travel bug to find a home in Japan, so I think he's just happy traveling around with me from one prefecture to the next, checking out the sights. And here in Kumamoto, there are plenty of sights to see. With the exception of the castle though, coming up a little bit later in the day, I don't know what I'm going to be seeing until I get to it. There are enough geocaches hidden here around the city center to allow them to dictate my course and then just choose the road to take.
It took a little while, but it does look like the magical hour has ended for me. The city has finally woken up and caught up to me, and everybody is out, moving, ready for another day.
For as long as possible, I follow along the banks of the Suo River, which forms the natural moat of the southern and eastern edges of the land that Kumamoto Castle once occupied. This beautiful walkway, which continues to treat me to scenic views the whole way through, is known as the Nagabei Path. For 242 meters, it parallels the longest of Kumamoto's castle walls. From the southern end, I began at the foot of the Miyokazaka Hill in front of a seated bronze statue of Kato Kiyomasa. There are several traditionals to guide the way through Sakuramachi and past the Yamazaki Sugihara Shrine. The unforgettably scenic Nagabei Path finally reaches its terminus in front of Kumamoto City Hall.
My geosenses had me less than 10 feet away the entire time I was searching for this one. But you know, 10 feet can make all the difference between a DNF and a successful find.
Upon reaching City Hall, I branch away from the Suo River and head further into the downtown area of Kumamoto. As soon as I spot Shirakawa Park across the main road running through the city, I make an immediate detour for a closer look. More than anything, it was this tree standing alone on a rise that caught my eye. Its sheer size over its fellows told a story of seeing generations come and go.
In a big city like this, a green space that's this expansive is quite the rare treat. So whenever you come across one, you definitely got to enjoy it for what it is, as long as it lasts.
As soon as I turn onto the street leading toward the Fujisaki Hachimangu shrine, I know I'm in for a treat. Lanterns light the way on both sides of the street, beckoning me to visit one of the most famous shrines in the city. Passing through the expansive torii gate, I look upon this shrine that was first established in the year 935 by Emperor Suzaku to welcome the gods to Kumamoto. It is important to note, however, that this is a recreation, the original shrine having been burned down in 1877 during the Satsuma Rebellion.
No, Snoopy, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being real with you, bro. If you want to keep traveling around Japan, you might want to consider losing some weight. Because you're not going to fit in most of the accommodations around here, buddy. I'm sorry.
The thing about allowing geocache listings to act as your tour guide through a city is you are bound to discover hidden gems that aren't listed anywhere else. And so I find myself strolling into Seiso Park in pursuit of an earth cache promising to show me traces of volcanic activity of Mount Aso. At first glance, I knew this was not your typical park. From the ancient stone bridge and lanterns to the beautifully manicured landscape, I knew this was something else altogether. Once thought to serve as the main gateway into the castle, this had once been the gardens of the Hosokawa family's Edo residence.
The really entertaining thing about tracking down some of these urban geocachers is that in these cities, sometimes there's a ton of muggles nearby in sight, so you can't just search around at your leisure. You have to very casually look around until you spot the prize and then wait for that right moment to make the grab like a ninja. I'm also just particularly fascinated and entertained by this ground zero. All the way around this circle here, all of these little gray signs you can see, they all have the same thing. Please don't smoke right here, right? So instead, the smoking circle is just outside and everybody comes and congregates there. I mean, if you ask me, it really doesn't make much of a difference at that point.
I count my blessings that the majority of the smuggles, that's smoking muggles, were located on the opposite end of the GZ, leaving only a few people nearby me while I searched. I escaped the small cloud of smoke wafting over the park in short order and was circling toward the castle once again.
Spotting the geocache is the easy part. Waiting until there's no muggles around looking at what you're doing, that's the hard part. As soon as this bicycle makes the turn, free and clear to make the grab, no witnesses. Okay, I stand corrected. There was one witness to what just happened here. This little kitty came right over and started silently judging me. But I'm thinking it's not going to steal the geocache, so we should still be good.
Even when I have to backtrack through ground that I've already covered, I try to take a road that I haven't taken before, whenever possible. This longing to explore undiscovered area leads me straight into Karashima Park. I find that I am unable to resist the allure of the flowing fountain, spending several minutes before finally continuing on my way. My goal now is to reach Kumamoto Castle, coming in from the north side.
I'm really glad I didn't need to be on that road, because the satellite imagery would have had me believe that I could just turn left right there and go. Clearly not the case. Fortunately, straight away to our next target.
Unlike the much larger road leading around the southern end of the castle, the much smaller road on the northern end is peaceful and quiet. Beside the occasional bike, I had this place all to myself.
Despite Japan being the land of the micro, it's surprisingly rare whenever I come across a nano container. These little teeny tiny guys can be a serious pain to find. Fortunately, this ground zero does not offer a lot else to search for, so it was not nearly as difficult as it might have been otherwise. Try this though, on one of those black rail fences that goes on for eternity.
Honestly, whenever you have the opportunity, I recommend taking the longest route possible to get to your destination. I am now approaching the front of Kumamoto Castle, but having circled in all the way around, I really feel like I've gotten the full tour on the way here.
The classic Stonewall hide. I'm definitely getting a lot better at these, visiting all the castles I do, because that's one place you can always expect to find a stone wall. Now normally, with these kind of hides, you can expect to be kind of shifting rocks around that are loose and find the geocache hidden behind one of them. That's not the case this time. Actually, the whole time I've been talking to you, the geocache has been right there in plain sight. Do you see it yet? I'll give you a moment. Look carefully. How about now? Fake rock for the win.
Just shy of the castle entrance, I find a spot I can't resist bringing you inside to tour with me.
I'm approaching the end of my geocaching tour here in Kumamoto, almost to the castle, and I stumbled across the Kumamoto City Museum. I just can't resist a good history lesson, and I can't resist bringing them to you. So let's take a look inside.
From the very first exhibit, I know we are about to learn a lot about Kumamoto's rich history.
This room is very reminiscent of many of the Native American exhibits we visited across the United States. Out of ancient burial mounds, they have discovered these artifacts that they now have on display here for the public to view. Ancient Japanese history.
And when I say ancient, I really do mean ancient. Some of the items on display here date all the way back to the Japanese Paleolithic period. That is as far back in history as you can go, finding evidence of people living in Japan more than 36,000 years ago. It is difficult to find signs of human habitation in Japan predating 10,000 BC because that's when pottery began to be developed. The advent of this earthenware pottery marks the beginning of the Jomon period in Japan, so named for the rope-like pattern pressed into the clay structure. While not quite the oldest, that distinction belongs to China. The pottery vessels discovered from the Jomon period in Japan are commonly accepted to be among some of the oldest found anywhere in the world. The oldest of which was discovered in Aomori Prefecture dating back to 14,000 BC.
One of the things I have always enjoyed in my travels whenever I go to a new country is I try and collect a lot of the smaller bills and all the coins. So I have a pretty good collection from around the world, and I have a lot of bills and coins that have gone out of production and have been replaced by new generations. So it really makes my heart sing to see all of these old coins dating back for centuries.
Before long on this tour through Kumamoto City Museum, I find myself stepping out of ancient Japan and into a more modern era, at least by comparison. While there are only a handful of displays dating back into the BCs, there are numerous exhibits on the Muromachi period, which took place from 1336 to 1467, the Sengoku period, which took place from 1467 to 1600, and throughout the Edo period. Several of these artifacts were recovered from the Hosokawa clan, a group of Japanese samurai who descended from the Seiwa Genji of the Minamoto clan. If you continue to trace their lineage back through time, it will eventually lead you to the Ashikaga clan and straight to Emperor Seiwa. By the Edo period, this clan had become one of the most influential daimyo families anywhere in the country. That influence has been felt in more modern times as well, with their clan head having recently served as prime minister.
Whenever I come into a museum like this, before I even start my tour, the first question I ask is if I can film or where I can and cannot film. And this place was helpful enough to give me a nice little map and cross out and circle the areas I'm not allowed to film. Also indicate that some displays have the symbol, meaning don't film there. Got it. So I came here to check out on this map. Let's look into the window, which is down its own little private hallway. I'm surprised to find out that today I will not be looking in the window. My curiosity is piqued because I really want to know what's on the other side of this thing.
It turns out, what is on the other side of that window is quite a bit. The Kumamoto City Museum is already quite expansive, offering several floors of exhibit for an admission price of only a few hundred yen. But behind that window we could not look into today is a plethora of items that have never been on display to the public. It offers a sneak peek into the museum's storehouse collection, holding more than 42,000 items, many of which remain uncatalogued to this day. Fear not though, because what is on display in the main area is more than I could possibly get to. A history of the Satsuma Rebellion and the 1888 deployment of the 6th Division. The succession of Kado Kiyomosa and his efforts in reconstructing and stabilizing Higo as a region. Not to mention the faithful recreation of Amachiya townhouse dating back to the Meiji era. Yes, it is one of those places where I am only scratching the surface of the vast depths available to be explored.
I do my best to follow the rules as much as possible, and if the signs have Japanese in them, I'll read the Japanese just to be sure. A lot of times they'll give you a picture that tells you what not to do. I don't actually know what this is telling me not to do though. Any ideas out there? My best bet is don't put your foot up on this like it's a step, which I don't know why anybody would, but I've got nothing else.
Rising up to the second floor of this museum, you immediately think that you're in a different place altogether. Left on the floor below is the history of human habitation in the area. Here you will get to learn about Kumamoto's natural history, beginning with a diorama of the depths of Lake Izu.
This kind of display is every bit as much my speed as the history is, because you know as geocachers, we love getting out there, and I love seeing the wildlife. So it's interesting to be able to get to see the many things I see along the way, including a lot of these fish, which come straight up to the surface when I'm hanging around looking for a geocache, likely because they think I'm going to feed them, maybe because they think I'm handsome.
Kumamoto boasts great variances in its geography, ranging from tall mountain ranges of the active Asa volcano down to rivers, plains, and natural springs. This means that there is a lot of diversity to be found in the wildlife across this region.
And what a stellar catalog of insects they have here. Even my Animal Crossing insect guide isn't this good. And it's pretty darn good. Not to mention all the species of plants we come across, too.
Fossils and rocks found across Kumamoto tell a history of more than 500 million years. Through the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic eras, geologists and archaeologists willing to dig deep enough have unearthed quite the storehouse of treasures here in the Kumamoto region. Before long, I was wondering why I wasn't answering questions on one of my favorite types of geocache listings.
Earth cachers, feel free to eat your heart out on everything they have display in this room. I could just imagine a listing right now, just based on what I see on this table.
In just this one prefecture, there are more than 380 species of birds to be discovered. And between the mountains, woods, valleys, and caves, there are more than 50 species of mammals living here.
I haven't come across most of these animals yet traveling to Japan, but this little guy, oh, he lives right down the street from me. I've encountered him, his family, and probably some of their family friends on several occasions already. They've screamed at me. I screamed louder. Apparently I'm the alpha male.
And last, but not least, let's not forget our aquatic friends of the region. In the inland environments, you can find ponds, swamps, and rivers. Toward the coast, you can find tidal flats, sea beaches, and open ocean, leaving a lot of fish to be discovered here.
And here I was starting to think we missed the fish encyclopedia, but clearly this museum completely has my Animal Crossing Critterpedia beat. And let's not forget Kumamoto Castle, which we actually came here for. So now that we've had a chance to explore this awesome museum and get to know the history behind Kumamoto, let's go visit the castle.
It may have taken me all day to get here, but I am finally ready to take on my tour of Kumamoto Castle, entering through the southern gate into Sakura no Baba Josein. Nestled within this busy market is the first place I would recommend stopping into on the Kumamoto Castle tour, Museum Waku Wakuza. Not only is it the most logical approach to the castle, but on the combo ticket only adds an additional 50 yen for this glimpse into 300 years of history and culture. For the young at heart, myself included, there are plenty of interactive displays to help you learn about the castle in a fun way. And then of course, there's the recreation of Kumamoto Castle that instantly had me drooling.
This display is definitely worth taking a second look at. This is Kumamoto Castle, built completely out of Lego bricks. Oh man, that is so cool. And you know what? They didn't even use that many complicated bricks either.
Using no specialty pieces, these Lego bricks are all easily accessible.
Maybe I have a new project ahead of me.
Kumamoto Castle is considered one of the 3 premier castles in Japan, alongside of Himeji Castle and Matsumoto Castle. Its history stretches back for more than 500 years, when its first fortifications were established in 1467. Those fortifications would be expanded upon in 1496, but it would not start down the road to become the Kumamoto Castle we know today until near the end of the 16th century. Its history as a true castle of Japan would not begin until the year 1588, when Kado Kiyomasa became the Lord of Higo Province, what is now recognized as present-day Kumamoto Prefecture. He began his renovations of the existing structures almost immediately, completing the main keep at around the time the Battle of Sekigahara kicked off in 1600. It would not be until 1607, though, that the castle was completed in its entirety. The Kado clan would not be able to enjoy their new castle for very long, however, being replaced in 1632 by the Hosokawa clan. For the next 200 plus years, their clan would rule over the Kumamoto domain from this undisputed seat of power. This period, under the leadership of the Hosokawa clan, is often thought of as a time of blooming culture and educational advancement. But all things must change with the passage of time, and so too did the fate of Kumamoto Castle in 1877, when it was burned during the Satsuma Rebellion. Then, just 1 decade later, in 1889, more structures were damaged by the Kumamoto earthquake. It would not be until 1960 when reconstruction of the damaged areas would begin, this time using steel reinforced concrete to replace easily burnable wood. would. It would seem that was not nearly enough though, because in 2016, another massive earthquake shook down portions of the stone wall and collapsed many of the structures once again. The restoration efforts from that earthquake would take another 5 years to complete, not seeing a full reopening to the public until 2021. There are a total of 6 above ground levels to be explored in this castle, as well as an underground chamber in the basement. The first floor is a showcase to the history of the original Kumamoto Castle and the construction that has occurred over the years. The second floor focuses on expansions that occurred during the reign of the Hosokawa clan. The third floor teaches about the time when Kumamoto Castle was used as a military garrison. The fourth floor maintains a focus on the earthquake of 2016 and the recovery efforts that followed thereafter. By the time you reach the fifth floor, it tapers off to little more than a pass-through, leading you up to the observation deck on the sixth floor of the castle. From here at the highest part of the castle, as I like to do with all of the castles I visit, I pretend for a moment that I am the lord of the domains spread out below me.
Alright, I hope you guys have enjoyed this tour through Kumamoto today. We began the morning with the rising sun and worked our way through the city over the course of a great many kilometers, tracking down each of the geocaches along the way. We got to visit the Kumamoto City Museum, the Castle Museum, and of course finish things off right here at Kumamoto Castle. This has been a fantastic tour, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the journey along with me. I've still got a few more prefectures to take on here in Kyushu, and we're making our way to the next one now. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and I'll see you out on the trails.